Welcome to NAIOP's Solution Series program titled Compensation Shifts to a Talent Management Strategy. My name is Sandy Hudson and I will be your host. The Solution Series programs are available at no cost to NAIOP members. These mini webinars run less than 30 minutes and our goal is to provide you with some quick tips and insights, all types of positive strategies and tactics to help you succeed in today's business environment. We encourage you to drive the content. Please send an email to solutions@naiop.org to let us know what topics you would like to hear about in future programs. Please advance to the next slide. NAIOP has produced the popular Solution Series programs for over 3 years. Did you miss one of our informative topics? The archives of these programs are available through the NAIOP e-library. Examples of past programs are listed on the current slide. Our topics cover finance, niche development, logistics, and more. Visit the NAIOP website at www.naiop.org/bookstore for links to the archives. Next slide, please. And now let's get on with our program. With us today is Christopher Lee, President and CEO of CEL & Associates Incorporated, one of the nation's leading consulting organizations specializing in strategic planning, compensation, benchmarking, opinion surveys, and performance improvement in the real estate industry. He is an acknowledged leading futurist, has a PhD in management and organizational development, and has been an advisor to real estate companies nationwide for over 30 years. For over 20 years, his firm has conducted the nation's largest compensation survey in the real estate industry, and in 2011, Chris's firm conducted approximately 2 million customer opinion surveys. In addition, Chris's monthly e-newsletter, Strategic Advantage, is now read by nearly 15,000 real estate executives nationwide. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Sandy. I'm obviously very excited to again be part of NAIOP's Solution Series. And you know, this is probably the best time to highlight the cornerstone of every real estate firm, and that's its talent base. As you know, the real estate industry is in a period of transition, transformation, and change. And one, if not the cornerstones of that change, is talent management and compensation. Today's presentation, I would like to share with you the emerging employment and compensation trends in the real estate industry, the 2012-2013 compensation survey results, 2012 to 2013 outlook for talent in the real estate industry, and also then what you need to do to become an employer of choice in both the remainder of 2012 and into 2013. So let's begin. We'll first look at the emerging employment and compensation trends in the real estate industry. Each year, we conduct a survey of the top 100 or so CEOs in real estate across the country and ask them, what are your priorities in the year? What are you focusing on? What do you be focusing on? As you can see from that slide, in 2012, upgrading talent base is now number 3. It moved up from number 4 in 2011. And the retention of talent is number 5, again improving slightly from 2006 ranking in 2011. Interesting to note, at the bottom, managing corporate G&A has dropped from 5th in 2011 to 8th. This is principally due, I think, to most real estate organizations have now feel they have a control over their operating expenses at the corporate side, and they're really focusing on that talent base, making sure they have the right people in the right places at the right time. Also, we're seeing that approximately 63% of the companies surveyed, the real estate companies surveyed, anticipate hiring in 2012. This is versus 56% in 2011, a dramatic improvement. Overall, the areas that are most noted for anticipating workforce hiring are in property management, finance and accounting, and leasing. But there is a clear growing gap between what I want employees and what we can afford employees. The contracts with employees trying to recapture what they feel was lost during the recession, and employers who are trying to hold down operating costs so they can make some money in 2012 and 13. Also, we're seeing that employers are increasingly using pre-employment psychological and aptitude employment screening tests. This is increasing to making sure that they can hire the right person who has a cultural fit to the organization. We're also seeing a hiring of temporary or part-time or contract employees is up by 5% over the prior year. Approximately 35% of employers expect some of their top talent to leave as competition for outstanding performers increases. This is something that everyone needs to be concerned about, because this 1/3 shift means that if you're not taking care of your rising stars or your core talent, they will leave and go someplace else, and that'll be a huge impact on your organization. We're also seeing that approximately 45% of employers, real estate employers, are reskilling or increasing their training for employees in order to remain competitive. So they're enhancing, not cutting back on their training activity. Real estate companies are also becoming much more socially responsible in order to attract younger talent, adopting local charities and local greening the societies and things of that nature, so that it appeals to the young people who are coming in for interviews. We're also seeing recruitment continue to shift to those online services rather than just advertisements that go through magazines or publications. But here's an employment alert. According to our studies, starting in about 2015, there's going to be a potential shortage of 15,000 to 25,000 qualified real estate professionals. And this will accelerate as the boomer executives and employees begin to retire, and we're looking to bring in young talent. So we're going to have to be very, very careful, and real estate firms are going to have to make sure that they've got the right talent base and make talent management a priority in their organization. We're also seeing that the number of employees eligible to participate in long-term incentive programs is increasing, which means that they're adding more and more people that were were not eligible in the past, are now eligible to participate in upsides of real estate activity or enhanced enterprise value. We're also seeing that employers are accelerating the restructuring of their compensation plans, both on an annualized and on a long-term basis, in order to attract talent, making sure that their compensation plans are contemporary and that they're able to compete in today's highly competitive world. There's also a growing opinion that in 2015 to 2015, 2012 to 2015, is the next key time to make money in real estate. So as everyone recognizes now is the time to make money in real estate, there's real pressure, increasing pressure, to make sure that you retain the outstanding talent without obviously breaking the bank in an organizational perspective. Performance thresholds, minimum performance standards are also becoming more commonplace, and rewards are increasingly being based on minimum profitability levels and other financial governors, which means if the company's not making money, then bonuses and other incentives will likely not be paid, making sure that everyone is aligned up with the direction that the organization wants to go. We're also seeing that graduating college students continue to have difficulty getting started. Either they're not prepared or there are not enough openings for them. So this is difficult for a lot of those great young people who are coming out looking for those opportunities in our industry. The other key trend to look at, and obviously every one of you that's listening to this will be very cognizant of that, is the number of executives that are expected to retire by 2020. If you take a look at these percentages, according to our surveys, we're going to see around 58 to 62% of presidents and CEOs retire. This means that nearly 2/3 of the current presidents and CEOs will be gone by the end of this decade. CFOs, EVPs, SVPs, you can see from the chart, are all likely to change dramatically. So this expected retirement is going to create some tremendous challenges as well as opportunities for the young people today in real estate, but you've got to make sure that you've locked in your stars, otherwise you may be impacted by this dramatic turnover that's likely to happen over the next several years. According to our survey results, and you can see on this next slide, that there's obviously a great deal of data. Look at the two arrows at the bottom. That's probably going to highlight the key components here. Overall, in 2012, pay raises or merit increases went up 3.4 to 4.2%, depending on where you were. The average was 3.4. Expecting in 2013, it'll be about 3.3%. If you look to the next arrow, bonus realizations. In 2012, bonus realizations are likely to be 81.2%, jumping to about 85.8% in 2013. Just take a look at that same column there under incentive bonuses and go just up higher. And you can see that in 2009 and 2010, those percentages were down in the 60s. So you can see that we've had a dramatic increase in bonus realizations as real estate firms understand that they're going to have to incentivize, reward in order to retain their key talent base. This is a great chart to look at, and it's a great chart to focus on as a means of planning for your future. Turnover is also a big issue in real estate, as you can see from our chart, that there's been a trending data from 2002 through 2012. If you look at 2012, which is the bottom column or bottom line, the overall turnover rate is around 30%, getting a little bit higher, and obviously moving up from that 27% in 2010. What does this mean? This means that as the economy has improved, or as people perceive that there are new opportunities in other competitors or other real estate firms, they're going to make a choice. They're going to leave. Interestingly, the CEOs or the senior executive levels has the percentage drop. This is because many of them are older. These are the baby boomers typically, and they're going to be in their 50s or 60s, and they're saying, you know what, this is my last place of employment. I'm not likely to leave or likely to turn over. So the cornerstone here is that there's movement primarily in the mid-level positions and a holding down or low turnover in the senior executive positions. But as you see from the prior chart, this will begin to accelerate in 2015 and 16 as these senior executives begin to retire en masse, creating that employment shortage. So let's take a look at our survey results, and some of these will be very important to all of you as you look at these slides. Our survey was conducted in the second quarter of 2012. Approximately 380 companies participated. 50% of those were NAIOP members, and about 95,000 employees were represented. This is the nation's largest compensation and benefits survey by far over any others that might be available today. Very, very comprehensive. So what did the survey results tell us? Well, as you can see from this slide here, and I've got several different slides coming up, but I've highlighted in yellow some cornerstone activity. First of all, in the yellow there, you can see at the CEO level, for example, between 2008 and 2012, CEO compensation just improved about 16%. Contrasted with that, the chief investment officer declined about 18%. So what that was saying, obviously, in that recessionary period, people were not looking to acquire or not looking to make investments. They were hunkering down, focusing on their leader to lead them through this process. So you can see some big changes just in those two categories alone. The next slide is clearly one that's probably the most dominant increase of all positions in real estate has been the research director. Real estate firms are increasingly focused on building up their knowledge base, trying to achieve a strategic advantage or a competitive edge by using information and creation of knowledge to achieve that competitive advantage as they go forward in all that they do. So for the research directors, between 2008 and 2012, their compensation rose 42%, just a dramatic jump as people began to focus on that knowledge base. The next slide has several highlights, and it's just won't touch on all of them, but as you can see, the division executives are up 24% in between 8 and 9. Asset management was a big focus, was up 18%. Property management executives were up 13%. But yet at the bottom, some of the property management positions declined. And that was because people were trying to hold on costs, particularly on the pass-throughs that they made to their clients that they were managing for others, trying to keep their costs down. So those compensation remained fairly low or did not increase as dramatically as some of the others. The next slide highlights the same kind of issue. But look at this acquisitions associate. That was down 23%. Again, highlighting, as you saw from the chief investment officer, that decline is reflected also in the acquisitions. And even the portfolio managers, those positions were down between 2008 and 2012. But look at what the portfolio manager, down in 2008 to 12, but the last 2 years it's been up about 16%. These are indicators of a trend toward improving conditions within real estate, but very sensitive on taking care of the leadership positions who most organizations feel are going to drive the creation of value throughout the organization. And that's what these, clearly our survey data is telling us. When you compare NAIOP members to the national results between 2012 and 2011, let's focus first on 2012. You can see from a senior management position, NAIOP members are not increasing as much as the national trend is. For exempt employees, about the same. For non-exempt employees, fairly close. And for company average, slightly lower than the national average. Bonus realizations are fairly consistent across the board. if you compare 2012 to 2011, you can clearly see that bonus trend that jumped up several points from the 60s into the 70s. You can see pay raises are going up literally across the board for most positions, with the exception of the company average. Well, company average has gone up as well, but all of these have increased. Again, a reflection from this survey results that says conditions are improving, but most importantly, people are making compensation decisions to hold on to their rising stars. From a benefits perspective, you can take a look, and I've highlighted just a couple in bold here. Dental insurance is now being made available to about 95% of the firms in the survey. And employer match 401ks are up to 77%. And you can see, obviously, the trend to workforce hiring is about 63% are rehiring. All of these are just touch points of our survey, obviously very comprehensive, but indicates, again, that employers in real estate are bringing forth those incentives, those benefits that allow you to recruit the best talent, more importantly, to retain that existing workforce. So what is the outlook for 2012 and 2013? Let's take a look and find out. First, key geographic differences still remain. There are parts of the country that are growing and doing very well. Other parts of the country are not doing as well. There's a renewed focus on training and certifications. There's clearly an increase in use of try before you hire employees, and that will continue over the next 12 and probably 24 months as people want to make sure, are we making the right choice before we commit to a full-time position? We're seeing an increasing hiring of value creators. That's in the area of finance and capital creation and fundraising and acquisitions and development, as you saw earlier. Those are increasing as the economy begins to improve, and they're viewed as the value creators. There's a trend we see in the next year or so for an outsourcing of administrative functions, IT functions, marketing functions, might be going outside rather than being an in-house activity. We're going to see a decline in post and wait job listings. Those are those job listings where you put something up on the board and say, okay, well, let's see who responds. And much more focus on talent network strategic sourcing vehicles, using things like LinkedIn and others. We're really narrowing in, going after, being aggressive to try to make sure that the best talent is exposed to the opportunities in your organization. We're also seeing increased flexibility of working arrangements for the right professional. So if you can't, you have personal obligations or family obligations, and you just start at 10 and work till 8 at night or 6 or whatever, those flexibilities are becoming more and more commonplace, much more of adaptability rather than trying to push everyone into the same box at the same set of hours. There's an increasing focus on succession planning and leadership development, and I underline this. Succession planning is huge because as those senior executives begin to leave en masse over the next several years, the ability to have a successor in place is critical. And I would urge everyone listening to this series to make sure that you focus in on that succession planning at all levels, from the CEO level to the senior executive level, and helping to develop the next generation leaders along the way. There's also going to be increased priority to align business strategy with workforce planning, which means that whatever your vision and your strategy and your plans are, is it aligned to the workforce and talent management plans you have in place? Annual bonuses are going to continue to have a large discretionary component because there's so many unknowns in the economy today, there's so many unknowns in the capital markets today, so many unknowns geographically, that many people are adding and increasing that discretionary element to the bonus realization component. There's an increased focus on internal expertise matching, which means we really have to go outside, or is there someone internally that we can train or enhance or move over to take on those responsibilities? There's also increased use of competitive benchmarks, such as this compensation survey and many others that are out there, to evaluate performance, making sure that are we doing the right things at the right time. There's increased use of social media, and that is going to accelerate through the balance of this decade. There'll be an increase in use of video interviewing and employment branding techniques, where you're really trying to make sure that you're enhancing what your brand is and also reaching out through the videoing to interview people rather than having to fly them in or have them spend an overnight at a hotel and just incurring additional costs, where that video interviewing is obviously much more cost effective. There's increased use of employee-driven career development planning process and increased focus on adding some strong social and environmental vision components to recruitment, really trying to demonstrate to the young people, which is very, very sensitive to these social issues, that you as an organization, your organization, is behind the improvement to that environmental area or is behind supporting community activities. And there's also increased shift to a much more dynamic performance feedback model, getting those annual reviews, not just annually, but often quarterly. Quarterly bonuses in some cases are showing up, where you're really trying to make sure that are we really providing the kind of feedback and reward structure that keeps people on focus, on target, working to the firm's highest priorities. So what do you need to do? There's a couple ideas as we end the series, and I want to just hopefully take some of this to heart as you listen to these different suggestions. First of all, you need to make sure you've created and implemented a very contemporary hire-in practice, much more robust onboarding process, a robust training process, and a robust career development process. You need to focus on employee productivity and consider the outsourcing of those non-core positions and functions that we talked about just a few minutes ago. Make sure that you have developed a written, not just what we know about it, but a written talent management plan that's aligned with your company's strategic and long-range business objectives. Prepare your organization for continued economic uncertainty and create contingency plans for the very, very likelihood of unexpected turndowns and challenges that are likely to occur. Identify ways to reduce your payroll costs, so rebid those insurance coverage, increase the use of temps, independent contractors, utilize the rent-to-buy employees, making sure that you really are maximizing your dollars. That's that human capital management. That's also about that productivity that you're trying to focus on. So make sure you do those. But you also must make sure that you've locked in your stars and your next generation leaders. I've talked a lot in this solution series about how important it is to make sure that that next generation leaders, those next generation young people coming in your organization and who are part of your organization, are going to stay. You invested a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy to make sure that the best people, make sure that you've locked them in. That's what, obviously a number of ways you can do that. The succession planning is clearly one of those. Make sure you've improved your employee recognition programs. Adopt a charity or community cause to assist in generating those Gen Ys. Review and revise, if necessary, your annual and long-term incentive programs. Expand the pool of those who are eligible for those long-term incentives. Make sure that you have taken it deeper and deeper into the organization. You need to cross-train and recruit the best athletes, not just the best position players, but get the best talent. Go after the best people that are out there today. And there's so many of those available today. Benchmark your personnel cost to external metrics. And remember to deploy the right people in the right place at the right time. As you go forward here, it's a joy that I've been able to share with you this trends in compensation. I'm really honored to be part of the NAIOP Solution Series. But compensation clearly is shifting to a talent management strategy, and you need to make sure that you are prepared for that eventuality. Sandy, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Chris, thanks for a great presentation and discussing the latest compensation trends in commercial real estate. Please advance to the next slide. As you can see on this slide, the NAIOP, CEL, and Associates Incorporated 2012-2013 compensation report is now available for sale in the NAIOP e-library. Thank you for listening to our session, and have a good day.